The assembly station was even more impressive from the inside. Park walked through corridors made of something that looked like glass but felt warm to the touch. Light came from everywhere and nowhere, soft and golden, like a permanent sunset. The air smelled sweet, like flowers after rain. Delegate Mira led them through the station. She moved gracefully, her long robes flowing behind her. Other aliens stopped to watch the humans pass. Some pointed. Others whispered to each other in languages Park could not understand. "They are curious," Myra explained. "Few have seen humans before. You are different from what they expected." "Different how?" Yoon asked. Myra paused, choosing her words carefully. "You are smaller than we thought. And softer. We expected something more frightening." Park and Yoon exchanged looks. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy, it seemed. Park was not sure if he should be offended or amused. The welcome ceremony was held in the Grand Hall, a massive chamber at the center of the station. The ceiling was so high that clouds actually formed near the top. Representatives from all 12 species of the collective stood in a great circle. They wore robes and jewelry and strange devices that Park could not identify. At the center stood High Speaker Varel. He was ancient. Park could see it in the way he moved, slow and careful, like every step cost him something. His blue skin had faded to a pale gray, and his golden eyes were clouded with age. But when he spoke, his voice was strong. "Humanity," Varel said, "you have come far. Across the darkness between stars, you have reached out your hand. Today, we reach back." Ambassador Quan stepped forward and bowed. "High Speaker, we are grateful for your welcome. Earth hopes to learn from the wisdom of the collective and to share what little wisdom we have gained." The ceremony continued. One by one, representatives from each species came forward to greet the humans. Park watched them all carefully. Benethkai were aquatic creatures who lived in water-filled suits. Their representative, a being named Saris, looked at Quan with what might have been amusement. "How long do humans live?" Saris asked. "About 100 years, if we are lucky," Quan replied. Saris made a bubbling sound that might have been laughter. "So brief. We live for 1,000 years. What can a species learn in only a century?" Quan's smile did not waver. "We learn to make every moment count." The Ovani were even worse. They were crystalline beings, their bodies made of living stone that sparkled in the light. Their representative studied Yoon for a long moment. "Your brains are so small," the Orvani said. "How do you store information? How do you think complex thoughts?" Yoon kept her voice calm. "We manage." Later, at the formal dinner, Park sat between Mira and a being from a species he did not recognize. The food was strange but edible. He ate quietly and watched Myra lean close to him. "I apologize for Saris and the Ovani representative. They do not mean to be cruel. They simply do not understand humans yet. They think we are children," Park said. Myra hesitated. "Yes, many in the collective see humanity as young, unfinished, a species still learning to walk." Park thought about the wars he had fought, the blood he had seen, the friends he had lost. Young, they called humanity. Unfinished. He wondered what they would think if they knew the truth. "We have learned many hard lessons," Park said quietly. "Perhaps harder than the collective knows." Myra looked at him with her golden eyes. For a moment, Park thought he saw understanding there. But then she looked away. At the head of the table, High Speaker Varel raised his glass. The room fell silent. "I have a question for our human guests," Varel said. His voice carried easily through the hall. "I have studied your language files, your culture, your history. I noticed something interesting." "Please, ask anything," Quan said. "In your languages, You have many words for war. Battle, conflict, combat, struggle, fight. Varel tilted his head. Why? Why so many words for the same thing? The room was very quiet. Park felt eyes on him from every direction. Ambassador Quan thought for a moment. Then he answered honestly. Because we have learned that peace must sometimes be defended. And we have learned this lesson many times, in many ways. Each word carries a different meaning, a different lesson. We do not celebrate war, High Speaker. But we do not forget it either. The alien representatives exchanged uncomfortable glances. Park could feel the mood in the room shift. The curiosity was fading. Something else was taking its place. Fear, maybe. Or suspicion. Varel nodded slowly. Thoughtful answer. Thank you, Ambassador. The dinner continued, but the warmth was gone. Later that night, Park returned to the horizon. He walked through the quiet corridors of his ship, past crew members sleeping in their bunks. He climbed to the bridge, where Commander Beak was waiting. Her face was serious. "We have a problem," Beak said. She pointed to her screen. Park looked. He saw lines and numbers that meant nothing to most people. But he had spent 30 years reading tactical displays. He knew exactly what he was looking at. "Energy signatures," he said. "At the edge of the system. I picked them up 2 hours ago. At first, I thought it was just background noise. But they're moving, slowly, carefully, like they don't want to be seen." "How many?" Beak's jaw tightened. 12 ships. Big ones. Their energy profiles matched Draxi warships. Park felt ice form in his stomach. The Draxi. Here. Now. It could not be a coincidence. "How long until they reach us?" he asked. 6 hours. Maybe less if they stop trying to hide. Park closed his eyes. He had hoped this mission would be simple. Meet the aliens. Shake hands. Go home. He should have known better. Nothing was ever simple. "Do we tell the assembly?" Beak asked. Park thought about it. The Valori had no military. They had given up weapons 3,000 years ago. If the Draxi attacked, the assembly would be helpless. Panic would spread. People would die. But if Park stayed silent and the Draxi arrived without warning, the death toll would be worse. Not yet, Park decided. First, we confirm what we're seeing. Run every scan you can. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with before we cause a panic. And if I confirm 12 Draxi warships? Park looked out the window at the beautiful station, glowing softly in the darkness of space. Thousands of aliens lived there. Scientists, artists, families. They had never known war. They had never seen a battleship. They were about to learn what humanity had always known. Then we tell them the truth, Park said. And we pray they're ready to hear it. Beak nodded and turned back to her screens. Park stood alone on the bridge, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, death was coming. He could feel it, the way a sailor feels a storm before it arrives. The collective thought humanity was young, soft, harmless. They were about to discover how wrong they were. Commander Beak confirmed it at 3 in the morning. 12 Draxi warships, moving fast now, no longer hiding. They would reach the assembly station in less than 5 hours. Park did not sleep that night. He dressed in his formal uniform and went to find Ambassador Quan. The ambassador was awake too, reading reports on his tablet. I know, Quan said before Park could speak. Beak sent me the data. What do we do? We tell them, Park said. We tell them everything. 1 hour later, Park stood before the Assembly Council. All 12 species were represented. High Speaker Varel sat at the center, his ancient face calm but curious. Delegate Mira stood nearby, her golden eyes fixed on Park. Captain Park, Varel said, You requested this emergency meeting. Please explain. Park took a breath. Speaker, approximately 4 hours ago, my ship detected 12 vessels approaching this system. We have identified them as Draxi warships. Based on their current speed, they will arrive here in 4 hours. Maybe less. The room exploded. Aliens shouted in a dozen different languages. The Nefkai representative, Saurus, rose from his water tank so fast that liquid splashed on the floor. The Orvani made sounds like breaking glass. Silence. Varel's voice cut through the chaos. The room went quiet. The old alien turned to Park. You are certain? Yes, High Speaker. The Draxi have not attacked the collective in 500 years. Why now? Park shook his head. I do not know. Perhaps they see this as an opportunity. Perhaps they have been planning this for a long time. All I know is that they are coming, and they are not coming to talk. Saurus pointed at Park with a webbed hand. This is your fault. The Draxi never showed interest in us until humans arrived. You brought this danger here. The Draxi were already watching this system, Park replied calmly. Our sensors detected trails in space. Old trails. They have been observing the assembly for months. We did not bring them here. They were already planning this. Varel raised a hand for silence. Captain Park, what do you suggest we do? Evacuate. Get as many people as possible onto ships and scatter them across the sector. The Draxi cannot chase everyone. And those who cannot evacuate? The young? The old? The sick? Park hesitated. This was the question he had been dreading. They will need protection, he said. We have no military, Varel said slowly. We have no weapons. We gave up war 3,000 years ago because we believed it was wrong. We believed that peace was always possible if both sides wanted it badly enough. The Draxi did not want peace. Then, what would you have us do? Park looked at the council. He looked at their faces. So different from human? Faces but showing the same emotions. Fear, confusion, desperation. These beings had never known war. They had built a civilization on the belief that violence was always wrong. That problems could always be solved with words. They were about to learn a hard truth. High Speaker, Park said. My ship is not what it appears to be. A murmur ran through the room. Myra stepped forward. What do you mean? The Horizon was built on the frame of a battleship. Our most advanced battleship. We hid its weapons behind false walls. We disguised its true nature because we knew your rules, and we wanted to respect them. But we also knew that the galaxy is dangerous. We knew that sometimes you have to be ready for the worst. Varel's eyes widened. You brought a warship to our sacred space? We brought insurance, Park said. And right now, that insurance might be the only thing standing between the station and destruction. The room was silent. Park could feel the anger, the betrayal, the fear. But he also saw something else. Hope, small and fragile, but there. Can one ship stop 12? Varel asked quietly. Honestly, I do not know. But we can try. We can buy you time. We can make them pay for every meter of space they take. Varel closed his eyes. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the Draxi transmission came. The main screen flickered to life. A face appeared, and Park felt his blood go cold. The Draxi were reptilian, with scales of dark green and eyes like yellow flames. This one wore armor covered in symbols that Park recognized as kill marks. One mark for each world conquered. I am Warlord Kethros, the Draxi said. His voice was like gravel. You have 2 hours to surrender. Open your stations. Hand over your technology. Submit to Draxi rule. Do this, and some of you will be allowed to live as servants. Resist, and you will all die. The transmission ended. Varel opened his eyes. He looked older now, as if the message had aged him. 2 hours, he whispered. Not even time to evacuate properly. Park stepped forward. Then let me buy you more time. He turned and walked out of the council chamber. Behind him, he heard voices calling his name, but he did not stop. He walked through the corridors of the station, past aliens who stared at him with wide eyes. He reached the airlock and stepped onto his ship. The crew was already at battle stations. Commander Beak met him at the bridge. Orders, Captain? Park sat in his command chair. He pressed the ship-wide intercom. All hands, this is the captain. In approximately 3 hours, 12 enemy warships will attack this station. The people here have no weapons, no military, no way to defend themselves. They are counting on us. He paused. He thought about his crew. Young men and women who had signed up to serve, who had trained for years, who trusted him to lead them. I will not lie to you. The odds are bad. We are 1 ship against 12. Many of us may not survive this day. But if we do nothing, thousands of innocent people will die. Children will die. Families will die. I believe that is unacceptable. He looked out the window at the beautiful station, glowing like a jewel in the darkness. Prepare for transformation sequence. Show them what we really are. Throughout the ship, hidden panels began to move. False walls slid away. Weapon arrays extended from the hull like claws. Shield generators powered up, humming with energy. The white and blue paint cracked and fell away, revealing the dark gray metal beneath. The horizon was gone. In its place stood the Taiguk, a battleship built for war. On the station, aliens watched through windows and cameras. Mira stood frozen, her golden eyes wide. They lied to us, she whispered to Yoon Hana, who had stayed behind to help with evacuation. Yoon looked at the warship that had once pretended to be peaceful. She thought about the lives it might save, the lives it might cost. We hoped we would never need to tell the truth, she said quietly. The Taiguk moved away from the station, positioning itself between the collective and the approaching enemy. Its weapons were hot. Its shields were strong. Its crew was ready. Park opened the channel. His voice went out across all frequencies, reaching the Draxi fleet, the assembly station, and every ship in the system. This is Captain Park Daeho of the Earth vessel Taiguk. You have threatened those under our protection. Turn back or be destroyed. Silence. Then, from the Draxi fleet, laughter. Warlord Kethros appeared on screen again. 1 ship? 1 tiny human ship against 12 of my finest warships? The Draxi's yellow eyes gleamed. I will enjoy adding your bones to my collection, human. The transmission ended. Park settled into his chair. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. These were his people, his family. They had trusted him with their lives. He would not waste that trust. All hands, he said calmly, prepare for combat. The first Draxi missiles came screaming through space like angry stars. Park watched them on the tactical display, 12 bright points of light heading straight for the Taiguk. Point defense, fire at will, he ordered. Commander Beak's hands moved across a console. The ship's automated guns came alive, filling the darkness with lines of tracer fire. Missiles exploded one after another, blooming into flowers of flame that faded quickly in the vacuum. But some got through. The Taiguk shook as 2 missiles struck the forward shields. Warning lights flickered. Somewhere in the ship, an alarm began to wail. Shields holding at 87%, Beak reported. Return fire. Target the lead ship. The Taiguk's main gun spoke. They were railguns, weapons that hurled metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The projectiles crossed the distance to the Draxi fleet in seconds. Park watched them hit. The lead Draxi ship was large, maybe twice the size of the Taiguk. But it was not designed to take hits. The railgun rounds punched through its hull like fists through paper. Atmosphere vented. Fires bloomed in the darkness. Direct hit, Beak said. Enemy ship disabled. 1 down, Park said. 11 to go. The Draxi fleet spread out, surrounding the Taiguk like wolves around a wounded deer. They fired in waves, missiles, and energy beams coming from every direction. Park's ship danced through the storm, shields flashing as they absorbed blow after blow. Shields at 62%, Beak called out. Keep firing. Don't let them rest. The battle became a blur of light and sound. Park shouted orders. Beak coordinated the weapons. The crew worked like a single machine, each person doing their part. The Taiguk was bleeding, but it was still fighting. On the assembly station, the collective watched. They had never seen anything like this. Their screens showed the battle from 100 different angles. They saw the Taiguk twist and turn through enemy fire. They saw missiles explode against its shields. They saw its guns tear holes in Draxi ships. High Speaker Varel stood in the observation room, his ancient hands pressed against the glass. Delegate Myra stood beside him. Neither spoke. There were no words for what they were witnessing. War. Real war. Not the stories they had heard. Not the old records from 3,000 years ago. This was happening now, right in front of them, and it was terrible. But it was also beautiful in a horrible way. The Taiguk fought with a grace that seemed almost like dance. Every movement had purpose. Every shot had meaning. The humans fought not with rage, but with cold precision, like surgeons cutting away a disease. Back on the Taiguk, things were getting worse. A Draxi energy beam broke through the weakened shields and struck the port side. Metal screamed. A section of hull simply vanished, blown into space. Emergency doors slammed shut, sealing the breach. Casualties? Park demanded. 12 dead, came the reply. 20 wounded. We've lost decks 7 through 9 on the port side. Park closed his eyes for just a moment. 12 of his people, gone in an instant. Friends, comrades, people who had trusted him. He opened his eyes. There would be time to mourn later. Right now, he had a job to do. Target the nearest enemy ship. All 4 batteries. The Taiguk's guns roared again. Another Draxi ship died, its reactor exploding in a flash of blue-white light. Then another. Then another. 4 Draxi ships destroyed in the first hour. But the Taiguk was paying a terrible price. Half its weapons were offline. The shields were failing. The hull was cracked in a dozen places. Warlord Kethros watched from his flagship. His yellow eyes were no longer amused. These humans, he growled to his officers. They fight like demons. No collective species has ever resisted like this. Should we withdraw, Warlord? Kethros bared his teeth. Never. We have lost ships, yes, but we still outnumber them. Concentrate all fire on their shield generators. Once their shields fall, they are dead. The remaining Draxi ships changed their attack pattern. They stopped spreading out and moved together, focusing their fire on a single point of the Taiguk shields. On the bridge, Beak saw the change immediately. They're concentrating fire on our port shields. They're trying to burn through. Can we rotate? Not fast enough. Port shields at 20%. 15. 10. Park made a decision. It was a terrible decision, but it was the only one that made sense. Move us closer to the station. Beak stared at him. Sir, we'll use our hull as a physical shield. Put ourselves between them and the station. Captain, if they hit us with our shields down, I know. Do it anyway. The Taiguk moved backward, positioning itself directly in front of the assembly station. The Draxi kept firing, and now their shots that missed the Taiguk hit the ship anyway as it drifted into their path. The hull shuddered with each impact. On deck 4, a fire broke out. Crew members rushed to fight it, dragging wounded comrades to safety. On deck 6, a power coupling exploded, killing 3 engineers instantly. And on deck 9, a whole breach opened. Ensign Cho Yuna was 22 years old. She had joined the fleet because she wanted to see the stars. She had never expected to die for them. The breach was small, maybe a meter wide. Air was rushing out, pulling debris and people toward the hungry void. Emergency doors were trying to close, but something was jammed. If the doors didn't close, the entire section would decompress. 30 people would die. Why Yuna saw the problem. A piece of metal was stuck in the door track. Someone needed to clear it. But anyone who got that close would be too near the breach. They would be sucked out. She didn't hesitate. Yuna grabbed a safety cable and hooked it to her belt. She pulled herself toward the door, fighting against the wind that tried to tear her away. Her hands found the metal piece. She pulled. It wouldn't budge. "Come on," she screamed. "Come on." She pulled harder. Her muscles burned. Her lungs ached. The void was inches away, cold and endless and hungry. The metal piece came free. The door slammed shut. Yuna collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. Around her, 30 people were safe. They looked at her with wide eyes, not quite believing what she had just done. "Ensign," one of them said, "you saved us." Yuna tried to smile, but then she felt something wrong. She looked down. The safety cable had snapped when the doors closed. A piece of shrapnel had caught her in the side. She fell. The medics reached her in minutes, but it was too late. Ensign Cho Yuna died on deck 9 of the Taeguk, surrounded by the people she had saved. On the bridge, Park received the news. He felt something cold settle in his chest. Another name to add to the list. Another letter to write. Another family to visit when this was over, if this ever ended. "Captain," Beak said, her voice strained, 6 Draxi ships remain. Our shields are gone. Hull integrity is at 40%. We've lost 47 crew members. Over 100 wounded. Park looked at the tactical display. 6 ships. Still too many. The Taeguk was dying. But behind them, the station was still intact. Thousands of lives still breathing. "Keep fighting," Park said. His voice was calm. His face was bloody from a cut he didn't remember getting. "As long as we can move, as long as we can fire a single gun, we keep fighting." "Yes, sir." The battle continued. The Taeguk burned and bled, but refused to die. And slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. 5 Draxi ships. Then 4. Each one died harder than the last, but they died. Warlord Kethros watched his fleet shrink. For the first time in his long career of conquest, he felt something he had never felt before. Fear. "Withdraw," he ordered. "All ships withdraw." The remaining Draxi ships turned and ran. They fled into the darkness, leaving their dead behind. On the bridge of the Taeguk, Park watched them go. He wanted to chase them. He wanted to make them pay for every life that they had taken. But his ship could barely move. Chasing was impossible. "They're retreating," Beak said. Her voice was hollow with exhaustion. "We won." Park looked at the damage reports, the casualty lists, the faces of the dead. "Did we?" He whispered, but there was no one left to answer. The Taeguk drifted in space, broken but not destroyed. Smoke poured from a dozen wounds in its hull. Emergency lights flickered in corridors filled with debris and blood. The ship that had once hidden behind white paint was now gray and black, scarred by battle, but it was still there. And so was the station behind it. Emergency shuttles launched from the assembly station, racing toward the damaged battleship. Valori medics, Nethkai engineers, or Vani scientists. They came from every species in the collective. They came to help. Captain Park sat on the bridge, refusing to move. His face was covered in dried blood. His uniform was torn. His hands shook slightly, but he gripped the arms of his chair to hide it. "Sir," Lieutenant Yoon said gently, "you need medical attention." "After my crew," Park replied. "I go last." Yoon did not argue. She understood. The alien rescue teams moved through the Taigak with careful efficiency. They had never been on a warship before. They had never seen what war did to metal and flesh. Some of them stopped and stared. Some of them wept. But they kept working. They found survivors in sealed compartments, breathing stale air. They found the wounded, crying out in pain or lying silent with shock. And they found the dead. 40-7 bodies. 47 humans who would never see home again. Ensign Cho Yuna's body was carried out with special care. Word had spread about what she had done. How she had saved 30 lives with her sacrifice. Alien hands that had never touched a human before now held her gently. With respect. High Speaker Varel came to the Taigak personally. He walked through the damaged corridors, stepping over broken panels and puddles of coolant. His old body moved slowly, but his eyes saw everything. He saw the blood on the walls. He saw the scorch marks from fires that had burned until there was no air left to feed them. He saw crew members sitting on the floor, too exhausted to stand, their faces blank with the special emptiness that comes after battle. Varel found Park on the bridge. The captain was still in his chair. The medics had finally forced him to let them bandage his wounds. He looked up as the High Speaker entered. "High Speaker," Park said. He tried to stand, but his legs would not cooperate. Varel raised a hand. "Please, do not rise. You have done enough standing for one day." "A day." The old alien moved through the bridge, looking at the damage, the broken screens, the empty stations where dead crew members had once sat. He stopped in front of Park. "I owe you an apology," Varel said. Park blinked. "An apology?" "When you revealed your ship's true nature, I felt betrayed. You had broken our rules. You had brought weapons into our sacred space. I thought you were dangerous." Varel paused. "I was right. You are dangerous. But not to us. High Speaker, please, let me finish." Varel's golden eyes were soft. "I have lived for 400 years. I have seen many things. But I have never seen what I saw today. Your ship, alone against 12 enemies. Your crew, fighting and dying for strangers who had mocked them. 47 of your people are dead. Why? Why would you sacrifice so much for us?" Park thought about the question. He thought about his crew, about Ensign Cho Yuna, about all the faces he would never see again. "Because someone had to," he said finally. "And we could." Varel was silent for a long moment. Then he did something that surprised everyone watching. He bowed. The High Speaker of the Valori Collective, leader of 12 species, bowed to a human captain sitting in a broken chair. "Thank you," Varel said simply. The assembly met the next day. It was a short meeting. There was only one item on the agenda. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was accepted into the Valori Collective. Not as observers. Not as children learning to walk. As full members. As equals. Delegate Myra brought the news to Lieutenant Yoon, who was helping coordinate the repair efforts. "Your species has earned something rare," Myra said. "Respect. True respect." Yoon looked at the alien woman who had become something like a friend. "I wish it hadn't cost so much." Myra nodded. "I understand now why humans have so many words for war, battle, conflict, combat." She paused. "But I also noticed something else in your language files. You have just as many words for protect, Guard, defend, shield, save. Two sides of the same coin, Yoon said quietly. Yes, I think we never understood that. We thought peace meant the absence of warriors. But perhaps true peace requires people willing to fight for it. Ambassador Kwon addressed the full assembly that evening. He stood at the podium where, just days before, he had answered questions about why humans had so many words for war. The same faces watched him, but everything had changed. I stand before you not to celebrate, Kwon said. There is no victory in death. There is no glory in blood. 47 of our people died defending this station. I will not call them heroes because that word is too small. They were mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, friends and lovers. They were people with dreams and fears and hopes for the future. He paused, collecting himself. They did not die for conquest. They did not die for revenge. They died because they believed that innocent lives were worth protecting. They died because they could not stand by and watch others suffer. They died because that is who we are. The assembly was silent. Kwon continued. I ask one thing of the collective. Remember them. Not as warriors. Not as soldiers. Remember them as people who believed that peace was precious enough to die for. Remember their names. Tell their stories. Let their sacrifice mean something. He stepped back from the podium. The silence stretched out, then High Speaker Varel began to speak. He spoke in his own language, words that flowed like music. And one by one, representatives from other species joined in. They spoke in their own tongues, words that humans could not understand. But the meaning was clear. They were honoring the dead. Outside the assembly chamber, alien engineers had already begun working on the Taeguk. They welded patches over holes. They replaced damaged systems. But they also did something else. On the hull of the ship, in the spaces between scars, they painted names. 47 names. Human names, written in 12 different alien scripts. Each species contributed their own writing. Each added their own prayer for the dead. Captain Park watched from the observation deck of the station. He stood alone, a cup of cold coffee in his hand. His wounds were bandaged. His uniform was clean, but his eyes carried weight that would never fully lift. Footsteps behind him. He turned dot. It was Commander Beak, followed by Lieutenant Yoon. Behind them came the surviving crew of the Taeguk, moving slowly, many still bandaged and limping. They gathered around their captain, saying nothing. A door opened. Delegate Myra entered, carrying a tray of food. Behind her came other aliens. Valori, Nethkai, even an Orvani, its crystalline body humming softly. They carried food and drink from a dozen different worlds. We thought, Myra said carefully, that perhaps you should not eat alone. Park looked at his crew. He looked at the aliens who had come to join them. He thought about everything that had happened. The battle. The dead. The vote that had changed humanity's place in the galaxy. Pull up some chairs, he said. They ate together. Humans and aliens sharing food and stories. Some stories were sad. Some were funny. All of them were true. Outside the window, the Taeguk hung in space. Repair ships surrounded it like protective parents. On its hull, 47 names glowed softly in the light of distant stars. Park watched the ship that had carried him through hell. The ship that had pretended to be peaceful, but had always been ready for war. The ship that had saved thousands of lives at the cost of 40-7. He raised his cup. To the fallen, he said quietly around him. Humans and aliens raised their own glasses. To the fallen. And in the vast silence of space, the names on the Taeguk seemed to shine a little brighter. For the first time in 50 years, humanity did not eat alone. And perhaps, Park thought, that was worth dying for after all. The morning started like any other in Seoul. People went to work. Children walked to school. The sun rose over the Han River, painting the water gold and orange. Commander Park Do-hyun stood at the window of the Space Defense Command building, drinking his coffee and watching the city wake up. Then the sky turned red. Park dropped his coffee cup. It shattered on the floor, but he did not notice. His eyes were fixed on the horizon, where massive shapes were pushing through the clouds. Ships. Hundreds of them. They were black and angular, like insects made of metal and hate. They blocked out the sun and cast shadows over the entire city. "Commander!" A young officer ran into the room. His face was white with fear. "We are receiving reports from everywhere. New York, London, Tokyo, Cairo. They are all under attack." Park turned to face his team. The command center was filled with screens showing destruction across the world. Missiles were flying up to meet the alien ships, but they exploded harmlessly against invisible shields. Fighter jets scrambled into the air, only to be cut down by beams of green light. "Get me Kim Yuna," Park said. His voice was calm, even though his heart was racing. A commander could not show fear. Not now. Kim Yuna arrived within minutes. She was the lead intelligence analyst, a woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She had been tracking unusual signals from deep space for weeks, but no one had believed her warnings. Now, everyone wished they had listened. "They call themselves the Velthari," Yuna said, pulling up data on the main screen. "I have been monitoring their communications. They are insectoid, Commander. A hive species. They have conquered 40 worlds using the same strategy every time." "What strategy?" Park asked. "Overwhelming first strike. They hit hard and fast, destroy military targets and major cities, then demand surrender. Every species they have encountered has given up within the first day." Yuna paused. "They expect us to do the same." Outside, the sounds of explosions grew louder. The building shook as something massive crashed nearby. Park walked to the window again. Half of Seoul was on fire. He could see people running in the streets below, trying to find shelter. Families, workers, children. His phone rang. It was the president. "Commander Park," the president said. Her voice was tired but firm. "The alien fleet has sent a message. They demand our unconditional surrender. They say if we comply, they will stop the attack and allow us to live as a resource colony." Park closed his eyes. He thought of his wife, his daughter. He thought of every person in that burning city below. "What is your decision, Madam President?" There was a long pause. Then the president spoke words that would echo through history. "We do not surrender. Not today. Not ever. Coordinate with whatever forces we have left. We fight." Park ended the call and turned to his team. "You heard the order. We fight." In the skies above Seoul, Lieutenant Lee Tae-woo was fighting for his life. His fighter jet was one of the few still in the air. All around him, his friends were dying. Their planes fell from the sky like burning leaves. Tae-woo fired everything he had at the nearest alien ship. His missiles exploded against its shield, doing nothing. A beam of light shot toward him. He rolled hard to the left, barely avoiding death. "All units fall back." The order came through his radio. "Retreat to secondary positions. This is not a battle we can win in the air." Tae-woo wanted to argue. He wanted to stay and fight until his last breath. But he was a soldier, and soldiers followed orders. He turned his damaged plane south and flew toward the mountains, where hidden bases waited for survivors. Back at command, Yuna was working faster than she had ever worked before. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she decoded alien transmissions. The more she learned, the more she understood. "Commander," she said suddenly, "I think I know why they are so confident." Park walked over to her station. "Tell me." The Velthari have a hive mind. They think as one. When they attack a planet, the defending species always surrenders because the pain of loss becomes too great to bear. Their psychology cannot handle continued conflict after such defeat. Yuna looked up at Park. But humans are different. We are individuals. We do not share one mind. When some of us fall, others rise to take their place. You are saying they do not understand us, Park said slowly. I am saying they have never fought anything like us. Every species they conquered gave up when victory seemed impossible. But humans, Yuna smiled grimly. Humans have spent their entire history fighting impossible wars. We never learned how to surrender. The building shook again. The lights flickered. Reports were coming in from everywhere now. Millions dead. Cities destroyed. Governments in chaos. Sir, another officer called out. We have lost contact with Surface Command. The Velthari are landing ground forces. They seem to think the war is over. Park looked at the screens, showing alien soldiers marching through the ruins of great cities. The Velthari moved with perfect coordination, like ants following invisible trails. They were already setting up processing centers, ready to turn Earth into another conquered world. Send word to all surviving units, Park said. Military, civilian, anyone who can hold a weapon. We are going underground. The bunker networks under the peninsula are still intact. We retreat now, but only to prepare. Prepare for what, sir? The officer asked. Park turned to face his people. These men and women had just watched their world burn. They were tired, scared, and hurt. But in their eyes, he saw something the Velthari would never understand. He saw anger. He saw determination. He saw the stubborn human refusal to accept defeat. Prepare for revenge, Park said. The Velthari think they have won. They think this war is over. They are wrong. This war has just begun, and they have no idea what they have started. As night fell over the burning Earth, the surviving humans disappeared into tunnels and bunkers and hidden places. The Velthari celebrated their easy victory and began planning how to strip the planet of its resources. They did not know that in the darkness below, humanity was already planning their destruction. The aliens had attacked first. They were not prepared for what came next.